A big milestone for Orbital ATK to launch the Minotaur rocket from Cape Canaveral, and we're very excited to be here.
Okay, the Minotaur rocket. This is a Minotaur 4. Tell us about the rockets being used in tonight's launch.
So it comes from a line of Minotaur family, and we have launched 26 missions, and this is a Minotaur 4. It will be our 6th Minotaur 4 mission.
And you have a whole...
We have a whole family, so we have a...
Oh, they're doing the poll. We're doing the poll. Let's go straight to the poll.
Sounds good.
MM is go.
OMM.
OMM, go.
ROC, range status.
This is Rock. Range status is proceeding.
Orbital.
Orbital, go.
SVMD.
SVMD is go.
LD.
LD is go.
Copy that. All stations report go. Check step 653. Standing by step 54. T-minus 14 minutes.
You can see the Minotaur there. So there's not a lot of intricate...
So now the Minotaur family of rockets, it's really a kind of an expanded class of a lot of variants, right?
There are a lot of variants, and as I said, this will be the 26th launch of our Minotaur line of vehicles. This one is actually a Minotaur 4 launch vehicle, and it is made up of excess assets from our ICBM fleet, and we take those as the first, second, and third stage, and then we combine it with new state-of-the-art Mach avionics and new commercial motors.
And now the Minotaur 4 for tonight's uses the 3 stages, correct?
Correct. So the first, second, and third stage are decommissioned Peacekeeper motors, and then we have 2 new upper stage motors that are built by Orbital ATK.
Trina, thanks so much, and we're looking forward to hearing a lot more from you. We've got a beautiful night here.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, the vehicle's on the pad, and I think in a few moments we might still get some more from launch conductor Carl Sealant on the final launch readiness poll, which should take place pretty quickly here. And we already did that whole poll, was already done. That poll's finished. So we moved on from the poll itself. And this is Minotaur Mission Control, and we are approximately now 15 minutes and 20 seconds from liftoff. Trina, you've got some animation that you can show us on Minotaur 4 mission, right?
I do, and obviously this animation is not going to be in real time. So let's look at that. And as you can see, the first stage motor will ignite, boosting the rocket from Launch Complex 46 here at the Cape Canaveral. This first stage will fire for a little less than a minute, at which point right here we see second stage ignition. And again, this is going to burn for just about a minute.
And now you've got, after the second stage, so each stage burns for about a minute, right?
Yes. So, after 2 minutes into flight, the third stage will ignite, and about 20 seconds later, the payload fairing, which protects the spacecraft during the rocket ascent throughout the atmosphere, we'll see that in just a minute, that will jettison away.
And then there it is, and the spacecraft is then exposed.
Correct. At this point, the third stage begins a coast period that lasts for a little more than 10 minutes before stage 3 separates from the rocket, and the fourth stage ignites and burns a little more than a minute. Now, normally on a Minotaur 4 mission, this is when we would put the spacecraft into orbit, but on this mission, we're actually have an additional stage that it's going to do what we call a plane change. So it's going to turn it and put it into a equatorial orbit.
That's a pretty big deal, too, when you're making that plane change and adding that extra
We're making a pretty big left turn to get us into the equatorial orbit. So finally, about 28 minutes after launch, having traveled over 6,100 miles downrange and reached an orbit of 327 miles above the Earth, the spacecraft will separate from the rocket, and then the ORS spacecraft will be ready to start on its mission.
So really in about 25 minutes after liftoff.
About 28, yeah.
28 minutes after liftoff.
Correct.
Spacecraft's already in that low Earth orbit.
Correct.
And that's where this one is going, into a low Earth orbit, correct?
Right on the equator.
Right. So Trina, this is Minotaur Launch Control, and we are now closing in now on about just 13 minutes from launch of the ORS-5 satellite aboard a Minotaur 4 rocket. And moments ago, range safety confirmed that all hazard areas are verified and we're clear from launch, which is a good thing, right?
Nobody's out fishing in
No
the boats.
fishermen out there in the middle. That's one good thing about launching in the middle of the night.
That's true.
Tonight's launch takes place from Launch Complex 46, or LC-46 at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. These launches are managed by the U.S. Air Force's 45th Space Wing, commanded by Brigadier General Wayne Monteith. Earlier this week, General Monteith recorded a special message for tonight's launch.
Welcome to tonight's launch of the Orbital ATK Minotaur mission flying ORS-5. I'd like to start by thanking our mission partners for tonight: Orbital ATK, Space Florida, the Federal Aviation Administration, and the Space and Missile Systems Center. It's partnerships like these that have allowed the United States Air Force to break barriers since 1947 and the 45th Space Wing to break barriers for the last 25 years. Tonight's mission represents our third launch in just 12 days and our 14th launch this calendar year. That represents over 1/4 of all spacelift missions in the entire world, bolstering our claim as the world's premier gateway to space. And speaking of breaking barriers, this is the first launch ever of the Minotaur vehicle from Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. And it is the first mission from Launch Complex 46 since January of 1999, when Athena last flew, a period of 6,785 days. With this mission, we will have demonstrated our ability to support every vertical launch system in the U.S. inventory. On a personal note, this mission is important to me because just over 23 years ago, I was sitting nuclear alert with direct command and control of these 3 rocket motors. That's pretty darn cool.
Wait,
so,
actually those 3?
Go Minotaur, go ORS-5, go Sharks.
Sharks?
So back in the 50s and 60s, America was really excited. Space was new territory. Now, nobody knew what was going on. It was kind of like the final frontier. It was the unknown, and you realize that we're doing things that nobody else has even attempted because they thought it wasn't possible.
In terms of breaking barriers, some of that stuff is written in blood, and that's easily seen here on Cape Canaveral.
11, this is Houston. You are go for TLI.
When we talk about going to Mars, or we talk about putting a man on the moon again, we're going to have to break other barriers to get there again.
And I can't even tell you how many launch complexes we have on base, but each and every one has a story behind it. Parking spots that are set aside for former astronauts. You see all of these launch complexes that were once operational, and you can kind of see where we were and how we've gotten to where we are today. Thinking about the history and the guys that came before us, they're brave. I can't imagine sitting on top of a rocket and getting launched into outer space.
We don't have an innovation program, we have an innovation culture, where if you've got a better way of doing things, bring it forward. Let's talk about it and let's try it. What's the worst that can happen? We have to go back to the old way of doing business? No, this is how you move forward. You pull a lever and see what happens. Okay, if that works, great. Now let's pull another lever and let's pull a third lever. And if the third lever doesn't work, okay, let's push that one back and let's pull lever number 4. That's how you move this ball forward. You don't get there just by taking baby steps or by avoiding risk. You get it by managing risk and giving people the opportunity to tell their story and bring their ideas forward. And you embrace those ideas. My boss says, go fast. If it's within your authority, you don't have to ask permission. His boss says, be bold. And the Chief of Staff of the Air Force says, as a wing commander, I trust you. If you can't make a difference with go fast, be bold, and you're trusted, you will never make a difference in this business.
2, 1, 0,
We're now just about 8 minutes until launch with the Minotaur 4 on the launch pad there with the ORS-5 satellite atop. And I am now joined by Lieutenant Colonel Chad Malone, and he's the Division Chief from the Space and Missile Systems Center's Launch Enterprise Services Directorate. I had to read it to make sure I got it correct because that's a heck of a title,
It
Colonel.
is, John. It sure is.
Thanks again for being with us here. What is the Launch System Directorate, and what does it do?
Well, the Launch Systems Enterprise Directorate, simply stated, launches when and where the nation needs. We launch national security satellites by partnering with industry to develop, procure, and operate expendable launch vehicle systems. It's also known as LE, and LE has two key programs, the Rocket Systems Launch Program and the Evolved Expendable Launch Vehicle Program. This will be RSLP's 711th launch, and EELV has an unprecedented 100% mission success rate.
Nothing wrong with that. That's pretty
No,
darn
sir.
good. And your division's role in this ORS-5?
Absolutely. We have two key roles. My division actually provided the decommissioned ICBM motors to the commercial contractor Orbital ATK. Our second role has been to be the lead program manager from a launch vehicle standpoint, and that aids the operationally responsive space office so that they can focus on the satellite and the ground portions of the mission.
You know, I'm fascinated by these rocket motors. Tell us a little bit more about them.
Absolutely. Well, I think you've heard earlier tonight that the first three stages of the ORS-5 mission are actually decommissioned ICBM motors, and they are the SR-118, 119, and 120. They're almost 8 feet in diameter, which means a professional basketball player could stand in there no problem without hitting his head. They weigh about the same as a medium-sized house, or 100,000 pounds, and they provide 500,000 pounds of thrust at liftoff.
So they get out of Dodge pretty quickly.
Very quickly.
And real quick, you're a local boy, and I know your son is here, and you were at Patrick, so this is exciting for you.
This is very exciting. I'm glad to be back and being able to participate in this mission. Absolutely.
Colonel, thanks so much for taking time out, and enjoy the launch. Coming up here now in under 6 minutes, about 5 minutes and 40 seconds until liftoff here, and this is Minotaur Mission Control. You can see the vehicle out on the launch pad as we're closing in now on 5 minutes to launch, and in just a second here, I'm going to be joined by Mark Bontrager. He is the Vice President of Spaceport Operations at Space Florida, and Mark, you're here. You made it. You stayed with us all night waiting for the launch. It's good to have you here.
It's great to be here, John.
And you know, while we're talking, we're going to be showing some the stacking of this rocket for this mission and Spaceport's role in this launch.
Space Florida played a major role in getting this pad ready for this rocket to launch today. We've been working on this pad for the last 5.5 years and are very pleased to play a role in enabling another launch complex at the Cape Canaveral Spaceport to be a place where launch activity is taking place.
And you and I were talking earlier. This is the first launch of this off this pad in some 18 years.
Yes, sir.
You had to do a lot of work to get it ready.
Yes, sir. We completely had to redo the underground communications room. The entire mobile access stand was refurbished with all of the major systems, and it's worked flawlessly tonight. I'm very proud of the fact we've been able to get there.
How does Space, real quick here, how does Space Florida enable other companies to grow in Florida, the aerospace company?
Our job is to make Florida the best place in the world for aerospace business to happen. And so we have a number of tools that the legislature's empowered us with to make Florida a great place for aerospace business.
Well, we're sure happy everything is going the way it is. And, you know, you guys are doing a terrific job promoting Florida and promoting the state. And, you know, I wanted to ask you, you've also got a balance. You've got a balance. This was an old Trident test.
Right.
You're balancing the needs of the Air Force, the Navy, and commercial industry, right?
Absolutely, and that's a wonderful role we get to play in ensuring that all of those can all thrive and succeed here at the Cape Canaveral Spaceport.
An exciting night here. You can see that vehicle out there. It really has to make you feel proud and excited at the same time because, you know, you've got, for the first time out there in 18 years, using this launch pad that you guys worked so hard on here.
Here. So absolutely very, very proud to be a part of this. And, John, we're super excited about this, what's going to happen here in the next few minutes.
Yeah, we're looking We're looking now at coming up on 3 minutes, Mark, and thank you so very much for
Thank you,
spending
John.
the time with us.
Absolutely glad
Great.
to do it.
From here on, we are going to listen in to the launch net and launch conductor Carl Sealant as he leads the team through the final count.
Less than 3 minutes left off.
And VM, verify flight computer auto sequencer started.
Stand by. LC rock countdown net.
Go ahead.
Brain green.
Copy that. LC, check step 85.
Auto sequencer started.
Check 86, BLC
We are now
verified.
inside of 2-minute limit. Checks are go. T-minus 2 minutes and counting.
Arm enable.
Arm enabled.
Check 88, PCC arm SNAs.
SNAs armed.
Check 89, PCC arm AD release.
Relays armed.
Check 90, PCC enable ISA ODMs.
ODMs enabled.
Check 91. VN confirm GPB is go.
GPB is go.
Check step 91.1, standing by 92 at T-minus 1 minute. Orb TM, start LCR Dewey.
T-minus 1 minute and counting.
Step 93, VM, verify stage select activated.
VM is go for launch.
Checked step 93. T-minus 30 seconds and counting.
ORS-5.
About 20 seconds to launch.
Minus 20. T-minus 10.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition and liftoff of the Minotaur 4 rocket carrying the ORS-5 spacecraft for the United States Air Force.
It's also cleaning around the house. What I can tell, this is a fully solid rocket.
Goal supersonic.
Check step 94, 95, 96, 97.
Vehicle avionics power is nominal.
LC, RCO, countdown net, liftoff, first motion time.
Mach 2, motor pressure nominal.
0.224. I repeat, on time,
RCO. Passing Mach 3 at maximum stage 1 thrust of 534,000 pounds. Passing Mach 4, vehicles half of original mass.
Stage 1 set, stage 2 ignition.
Stage 2 motor pressure is nominal.
Vehicle attitude and flight paths are nominal.
BCC power up, G2 cooling.
Hearing the voice of Carl Sealant providing
Vehicle
launch
avionics and power
vehicle
systems
ascent
performing as
data.
expected. GNC cooling off.
Check step 2.
That is an
Step 1 in work.
trail there.
T plus 85 seconds at maximum stage 2 thrust of 330,000 pounds.
Vehicle attitude and flight paths are nominal.
In RCO, have you got AOSJD TMA?
LC, RCO, AOS, JDMTA.
check step 3.
Approaching stage 2 burnout at 115 seconds, followed by a 10-second coast and 2-3 ignition.
Stage 2 burnout.
Stage 2?
Stage 2 separation, stage 3 ignition.
Oh.
Stage 3 motor pressure nominal.
Jeez, missed the stage sub.
Vehicle attitude and flight path are nominal. Vehicle is approaching the stage 3 gate.
Variant separation confirmed.
Vehicle attitude and flight path are nominal.
Plus 3 minutes. We have maximum thrust of 73,000 pounds.
Stage 3 burnout. Guidance solution converged. Stage 4 ignition will occur at T plus 831 seconds.
Sounds like it's a coast phase.
This is Minotaur Launch Control, and as you just heard, we just had third stage motor burnout. The rocket has now entered a 10-minute coast phase. Liftoff was at 2:04 a.m. Eastern Time. And now, as we wait for the next milestone, as the ORS-5 continues on its way to orbit, let's learn more about the U.S. Air Force's ORS-5 mission.
ORS-5 is a space situational awareness spacecraft. It was a STRATCOM urgent need, and it's going to be scanning the geosynchronous belt for any threats that might be out there.
Operationally Responsive Space, or ORS, is an innovative concept of meeting joint space requirements within months instead of years, and getting critical battle space information into the hands of those who need it as quickly as possible. The Space and Missile Systems Center's ORS office is headquartered out of Los Angeles Air Force Base, with an operating office at Kirtland Air Force Base, New Mexico. The mission of the ORS office is to provide assured space power focused on timely satisfaction of the Joint Force Commander's needs.
The Operationally Responsive Space Office was really created by Congress in 2007 in response to the perception or concerns that space acquisition was slow, wasn't agile enough, it wasn't rapid enough, and it wasn't responsive to Joint Force Commander needs. The first thing, we're focused on the urgent needs of the Joint Force Commander. Our second area of concern that we focus on is enabler activities, supporting and investing in those activities that will reduce the time and cost of bringing things on orbit or providing space capabilities. And then the third thing is kind of a separate piece, which we call the engagements activity, where we go out to combatant commanders, we go out to COCOMs, and talk to them about the capabilities that the ORS office can bring to bear, how we can help them meet their needs. We're not talking in all cases that it's going to be a material solution. In some cases, it can be something as simple as changing a tactic, technique, and procedure. So that's really what the ORS office was created and stood up to do, was to provide these rapid response capabilities to the warfighter.
ORS-5, also known as SensorSat, built by the Massachusetts Institute of Technology's Lincoln Laboratory, is designed to scan for other satellites and debris to aid the U.S. military's tracking of objects in geosynchronous orbit, replacing capability previously provided by the Space-Based Space Surveillance, or SBSS, mission.
ORS-5 is a Pathfinder program in so many ways. This is the first time that we're launching a Minotaur 4 from Cape Canaveral. It's also commercial contracted, so it's a very new way of doing launch services for SMC. So we're having a lot of lessons learned from this experience, but I think it's a great way for us to launch small satellite capabilities into orbit.
The Multi-Mission Space Operations Center's ground system will be used by Air Force Space Command's 1st Operations Squadron from Schriever Air Force Base in Colorado to operate the satellite.
This is also a Pathfinder program for MMSOC 2.1. It's going to be the foundation of enterprise ground services, and we're the first mission on this system. It's important that we're paving the way for future missions. The other way that we're a Pathfinder is with this particular technology. By designing the spacecraft around the sensor, it allows for us to decrease the size and weight of the spacecraft. It's a good demonstration of being able to put smaller spacecraft on orbit more rapidly, which I think is the direction that we're trying to go in the future.
Kind of sends out a message, a strategic message that as we're getting smarter and the technology is getting more robust, that platforms like this are coming online. And a platform like this with its capability is huge, but what other things can we come up with and develop to put up in space to be able to become a better, more robust warfighter?
So it's really fun to be part of this program. It's a small mission, small dollar value, but has such big impacts and great things coming in the future and demonstrating so many more new capabilities that I think SMC and Air Force Space Command and the greater Air Force are really going to benefit from these in the future.
ORS-5 is prepared to lift off aboard an Orbital ATK Minotaur 4 launch vehicle from Launch Complex 46 at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, Florida.
With me now is Colonel Shanaz Panjani. And Colonel, you were just there in the video, and now you're here with me live. This is great, and it's exciting. And you are the Director of Operationally Responsive Space Office.
That's correct.
And I want to thank you so much for being with us. And so my first question is, okay, operationally responsive space. What's the role? What do you do?
What do we do? So we're a little bit different than some of the other directorates in SMC. Our job is really to answer warfighter needs on a more rapid timeline and still within certain cost constraints. So when we look at the ORS-5 mission, that mission was done in, the contract was awarded in 2014, and we're launching in just a little over 3 years later. So that is an extremely rapid timeline for typical space systems that can be acquired anywhere from 5 to 10 years. And the cost threshold for this, which includes the satellite, the launch vehicle, and the ground system, for under $100 million. Again, when you look at typical systems, some of them out there, especially some of our exquisite imaging systems, can be up to $1 billion just for the satellite.
So you really do, you get your money's worth out of this.
You do. You don't get everything.
Right.
But you get
you don't have
all
the bells and whistles,
That's
right?
That's correct. We don't.
But you do get what you need.
Yes.
And you get it at a reasonable cost, and you get it in an expedited period of time.
Exactly.
That and that has to mean a lot to not just to you and the Air Force, but the entire military to be able to do that.
It does.
And this ORS-5 satellite, I've heard it described as operational demonstration.
It is. So it's an operational demonstration, operational prototype. We use lots of different flavors to kind of talk about it. So typically a system like this, when you're talking about, we call it payload, Class C, the bare bones types of approaches, they tend to be prototypes. We're going to have them for about 3 years on orbit, and then that's pretty much considered the useful life. So we call them operational prototypes to kind of set expectations across the rest of the community. This does not have all the bells and whistles. It doesn't have a lot of the things that the exquisite systems that have been in development for 5 to 10 years would have.
A couple part question. ORS. Okay, so what is it going to do when it's up there, as best as you can say? What's its role?
So its job is it's going to be in low Earth orbit, and it's going to look at the geosynchronous belt. Why do we care about the geosynchronous belt? Well, for example, a lot of our communications birds are out there. Your direct TV, your satellite TV, so your Super Bowl, that's where you're getting your Super Bowl stream from. So we care about the geosynchronous belt because it's precious real estate. And we have a lot of really important satellites up there, and we want to make sure that what's supposed to be up there is up there, and that there's nothing else up there that shouldn't be up there. So we want to be able to know what's out there. So this satellite is a telescope, essentially a telescope. It looks up at the geosynchronous belt. It's a change detection agent. So what does that mean? It means essentially it goes past 1 and it takes an image. Past 2 takes another image. It compares past 1 to past 2. Is it the same? If it is, good. If not, let's do some. Let's go take another look at it.
Colonel, thank you so much for spending time. It's been a long night, but
gosh.
worth it, right?
Very well with it. This was amazing.
Terrific. Thanks
Thank
again
you.
so very much.
Thank you.
Seconds to plan stage 4 ignition.
T plus 13 minutes.
This is a Minotaur launch control. We are 13 minutes and 20 seconds into the launch, and the Minotaur rocket is about to end its stage 3 coast phase. Isn't that right, Trina?
Correct. So in a minute or so, the third stage will separate from the launch vehicle, and we'll see that fourth stage ignite. You're going to hear the launch conductor, Carl Seelant, start to say planned. As we go into the next phase, we actually lose telemetry because we're going over the range and we lose our ground assets. So we'll pick that up again about fifth stage burn. So you'll hear his call signs change just a little bit as we go forward in this mission.
And we're going to be listening in, I think, to those call signs
Correct.
here momentarily from
minutes.
the launch conductor, Carl Seelant. And
The
again,
stage
it's
4
because
motor
you just
burn will burn
basically
for approximately 70 seconds.
can't
at
see the
maximum
bird, right? Can't
thrust.
hear it, can't talk to it.
Yeah, the range assets can't see the bird.
Right.
Parking orbit of 400 by 600 kilometers with an inclination of 24.6 degrees.
Plan stage 4 burnout.
During this approximately 10-minute coast.
With stage 4 burnout, we enter another 10-minute coast phase. So while we have the time, let's take a look at a video produced by the U.S. Space and Missile Command.
The attainment of an operational intercontinental ballistic missile is a vital concern to the national security. In June of 1954, this mission was established by the Chief of Staff in a priority directive to the Commander, ARDC.
I came to believe that innovation is in our blood. We have been breaking barriers since 1947.
Go Atlas.
It's who we are.
Go GPS.
The multi-domain, multi-component, coalition-friendly command and control has moved forward because we've been the connective tissue for the joint team.
The Atlas 5 rocket launches from Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, Florida, carrying the GPS 2F-12 satellites into orbit.
About $90 billion of the annual U.S. economy flows through the route of GPS. And this team here at the United States Air Force and at SMC really pulls it together, and they just deliver incredible capabilities. It's an incredible impact to the nation and to our warfighters.
Going pretty good. Yeah? We did high G and low G versions.
We are the finest Air Force on the planet.
And the capabilities that this spacecraft brings for the guys and gals out in the field who are fighting the fight is unbelievable. Literally the thousands of people that it takes to get here.
The Delta IV Heavy launches from Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, Florida, carrying the NRO payload into orbit.
SMC! I've seen what you can do from afar, and I've admired it. Now let's see what we can do together. It's my honor to be a part of this incredible team. We have to shape SMC into an organization that's focused on rapidly delivering space warfighting construct capabilities.
11%. That is a top-notch performance, and getting promoted at this point is awesome. So congratulations again.
Really neat to be able to bring kind of the warfighter perspective and the background that I have, to a lot of the capabilities that space is providing. So it really means a lot to me personally, and I'm honored to be part of Team SMC.
Reports all present or accounted for, sir.
Containing the third SBIRS geosatellite touches down here at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, Florida.
It's a kickoff to our 70th birthday. When you look at what our Air Force has done for the last 70 years, extraordinary things, been breaking barriers since 1947. We're going to continue breaking barriers. We have the most amazing Air Force on the planet, the most technologically savvy, globally aware, dominant Air Force on the planet.
The Atlas V, a mobile launch platform, weigh over 2 million pounds. Traveling at a speed of 2 to 3 miles per hour, the rocket will take approximately 20 minutes to make its way a quarter mile to the launch pad. The Atlas V rocket launches from Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, Florida, carrying the third SBIRS geosatellite into orbit.
It's a culmination of years of work at getting this rocket together, the team that makes sure that mission assurance happens day in and day out, that we have assured access to space. Put a pricey satellite on the top of a rocket and launch it into orbit is never a trivial matter. And partnering with the 45th Space Wing, ULA, and LE out at SMC to get us here today.
Proud to be SMC, go SBIRS! SMC continues support to the intelligence community with the launch of NROL-79. Arriving from March Air Reserve Base, the C-17 has landed here at Los Angeles International Airport.
It's not something you think about day to day, but in activities like this and at launch, you get a sense of affirmation of like what you're doing is definitely important, involving the warfighter, giving them the comms that they need to do their day-to-day mission.
The Delta IV rocket launches from Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, Florida.
And we have liftoff of the United Launch Alliance Delta IV rocket carrying the WGS-9 mission for the United States Air Force. What a great way to celebrate the Air Force's 70th birthday.
What you do is extremely important for not just our Air Force Space Command, but for the nation. You provide them an incredible advantage with the capabilities that you develop that have fundamentally revolutionized how we fight and win our wars today for our nation.
This is a Minotaur launch control. We're now approaching 21 minutes into the mission, and we've got about 5-6 more minutes to go, roughly, before ignition of the Minotaur rocket's 5th stage rocket motor.
So, John, while we were in that video, we actually deployed 3 government CubeSats off of the first stage.
Now, the CubeSats, for people who don't know, are those little,
really small,
but
very important.
Absolutely very important. Now, we keep talking about Minotaur. Now, Minotaur's been used for a lot of things.
It has.
Including a moon mission, right?
Correct. In 2013, we actually launched what we call LADI for NASA out of the Wallops Flight Facility to the moon.
Now, we're looking at some of this video here,
yes,
right?
Yes, this is a time lapse. You can see us stacking the motors very quickly.
It's a little faster than it would normally go, right?
A little faster, yes, correct.
And this would have been that Laddie mission?
This is the Laddie mission. And what's unique to Minotaur is we can mix and match those motors to create a vehicle that meets the customer needs. So, and it also gives them a dedicated ride to space.
And there would be the rollback.
Correct.
And ready for launch on looked like a beautiful morning, right?
And you'll start to see some satellites come overhead in this time lapse.
And yeah, and now you were saying you guys have launched from Alaska, and from California, right? And
Virginia, and now Florida.
Where did this launch from?
This came from Wallops.
From Wallops in Virginia.
In Virginia.
And there it goes.
So now with this launch today, we actually launched from all four corners of the United States, if you will.
Everybody's in plane. It's about time to get here to Florida.
Yeah.
So now we've got, what, a little less than a couple minutes to go here, 2-3 minutes or so, to ignition of the fifth stage motor. Now, ordinarily, Minotaur 4 rockets have what? 4 stages.
Correct.
But
and this Laddie launch that you're seeing right here, it was a 5-stage Minotaur, so this is a Minotaur 5. But the one we launched today was a Minotaur 4, but we did have 5th stage.
Okay.
So the 5th stage is used to change the direction of the spacecraft into its equatorial orbit. So to put it simply, we're basically making a left turn with that 5th stage.
So when we're back. Here's the video again that we have of that launch, I believe, right? Now, that's Laddie again that we're looking at, the launch of Laddie. And that is spectacular, how quick that Minotaur rocket gets off the pad, as we saw.
Yeah, Minotaur launches are one of my favorite rockets to watch, just for that and for just the sound of the rocket launching into the sky.
And
beautiful. And here you'll be able to see some of the separation like we saw tonight, and then you'll also see the payload fairing jettison.
I'm referring to
and it happens quickly because these stages only last a minute each, right?
Correct.
They burn out in a minute.
Very fast.
And then you go to the next stage. And I think we're seeing burnout of the first stage coming up here, I believe, right? Pretty quickly?
Pretty quickly.
And you were saying that the performance on these things and the reliability on these rocket motors is pretty spectacular, considering they're old. People may not know. They're the ones that were lit tonight, 28, 29 years old.
Correct. There's the fairing separation right there.
So now at that point, fairing separation, spacecraft is exposed and flying on.
So those motors were deployed at one time in silos, and now they're repurposed and used to launch a government payload at a very cost-effective price and a very reliable rocket.
And we're coming up now on just about 25 minutes into the launch.
T plus 25 minutes.
Stage 4 separation.
Okay, so I'm presuming shortly afterwards we'll have...
Stage 5 ignition.
Yep.
Motor pressure nominal.
Attitude nominal.
The stage 5 motor will burn for approximately 60 seconds to place the spacecraft into the final planned 600-kilometer circular orbit at 0-degree inclination. T plus 26 minutes.
Stage 4 burnout. Orbit nominal. Apogee is 604 kilometers. Perigee 599 kilometers. with an inclination of 0.02 degrees.
We are moments away from separation of the spacecraft from the rocket. Let's listen.
T plus 27 minutes.
Planned LOS at ascension.
ORS-5 spacecraft was manufactured by MIT Lincoln Labs for the Operational Responsive Space Office of the United States Air Force Space and Missile Systems Center.
LC RCO LOS for ascension.
Copy that.
Approximately 1 minute to planned payload separation.
Check step 7. SensorSat provides the Air Force with space situational awareness for the geosynchronous Earth orbit geo belt. T plus 28 minutes.
Approximately 30 seconds to planned payload separation. Planned payload separation.
This completes the Minotaur 4 portion of the ORS-5 mission. The first confirmation of the spacecraft separation will occur when the spacecraft makes its planned first contact at Diego Garcia in approximately T plus 42 minutes.
So we have spacecraft separation. ORS-5 is now in orbit. Congratulations to the entire mission team. And Trina, you are a great sidekick. It was so wonderful having you here.
Beautiful launch. One thing I absolutely love about my job is learning about the new spacecraft like we did tonight and meeting these men and women who work long and hard to make sure that the United States is protected on the ground and also in space.
And just another terrific night for everybody
Gorgeous.
here. Orbital ATK, kudos, Air Force, the entire mission team, launch team here. Just a spectacular job. And of course, we want to say a special thanks to the guests who joined us here to give us all their insights into this mission. I know the folks behind us are all pretty excited now, pretty happy. They can kind of exhale. And we're going to leave you tonight with another look at the liftoff of the Minotaur 4 rocket carrying that Air Force ORS-5 payload. For Trina Patterson and myself, good night.
So guys, that was launch of ORS-4.
9,
ORS-5.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition and liftoff of the Minotaur 4 rocket carrying the ORS-5 spacecraft for the United States Air Force.
Goodbye.